Okay, this one's going to be kind of off the cuff, so this is going to be either very easy to edit or very difficult to edit. We'll see. So when I started getting into Lancer, I got the book and I started flipping through, and of course the first thing I flipped through to was the mechs, and the very first mech that really caught my eye was the Death's Head. To this day, I don't know why. Probably because I'm just like a fundamentally contrarian person, and the fact that it's a non-anthropomorphic mech among so many anthropomorphic mechs probably just put something in my brain that it was interesting. I also love the Swallowtail, probably for the same reason. So I started reading the stats for the Death's Head, but I kind of started reading them in a vacuum. And something really weird happened as I was continuing to read the book and reading the rules and reading other mechs and starting to understand the game. The place where I thought the Death's Head was, as far as like power and like if you were gonna make like a tier list or if you were gonna put it up there and having compete with other mechs, the place where the Death's Head would be kept like fluctuating wildly. I would spend a week reading the book and suddenly it really seemed like the Death's Head was garbage. And then I would read the book some more and I was like, oh, but actually the Death's Head's really good. And then I'd read some more and it was like mid. And then I read some more and it was good again. So that's kind of been my experience of the Death's Head. Let's get into the stats. Like I said, this is off the cuff. I don't know if this is going to like filter out to a thesis, right? This time I'm really just like, let's read the Death's Head and see what comes out of my mouth. Core stats. Size 1, armor 0, normal for an artillery mech. Safe target 10, pretty good. Sensors 20, huge. Absolutely huge. We might get back to that. Hull points is 8. Okay. Repair cap 2. Incredibly low. Evasion 10. Speed 5. Those are both good. E defense 8. Okay. Tech attack plus 0. Pretty good. Believe it or not. SP 6. Not bad. Heat cap 6. Okay. Pretty good. So just out of those, I think what's really funny, what really stands out to me now where I'm at with the game is a tech attack of plus 0, which again is actually pretty good considering that there's mechs out there with a tech attack of minus 2. And a sensors of 20, I think that's the highest sensors out of any mech. I mean, there are mechs that are tied with it, like the Swallowtail, for example, also has 20 sensors, I believe. A lot of people think is like, oh, well, maybe you can make the Death's Head into a hacking platform. But I believe that the reason why it has such huge sensors and a decent tech attack, imagine you are running a Death's Head, and up ahead your party is just messing around. And you're like, guys, I kind of built this thing about taking like one big shot per turn. Would you guys mind figuring out a way to get all of those enemies out of cover? And they're like, blah, 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 like, pew, 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 like not paying attention, not doing anything. So eventually you get enough levels that you as the Death's Head user will like hack the enemies, pull them out of cover, and shoot them. Probably the real reason is to be able to put lock-ons on things, but in my mind, this is the situation that probably happens very often to the Death's Head. Okay, let's go with the traits. Neuralink. The Death's Head may reroll its first range attack each round, but must keep the second result. Perfected targeting. The Death's Head gains an additional +1 to all range attack rolls. Mounts 1 main aux mount and 1 heavy mount. Its core system, you activate it as a protocol and it gives you the Mark for Death action. And the Mark for Death action is the most cruelly written power in the entirety of Lancer. It is written to break your heart up until you figure out exactly where it's going. First off, it's a full action, right? So you spend a whole turn just activating this. Choose a character within 30 spaces, but further than 5 spaces to focus on. While focusing, you become immobilized and can't take reactions. But you deal bonus damage based on weapon size. Auxiliary 1d6, main 2d6, heavy or larger 3d6 on range critical hits against them. It's like you're sitting there like, oh, it's so much damage. You pick a guy and you deal this much damage to them? Oh, on a crit. Okay. As long as they aren't in cover or within 5 spaces. You may only focus on one character at a time. As a protocol, you may cease focusing on a target. You can stop and then take another full action to refocus on someone else. So why do I say it's so cruel? Yeah, it's because you start reading it and it's like, oh, it does so much damage. And it's like, oh, only on a crit. And this is what I'm talking about how as I was reading the book, the Death's Head got better and then worse and then better and then worse, right? So like I first read this and I'm like, oh, this is only on a critical hit. Who cares, right? Because at the time, I didn't know how critical hits worked in Lancer. I didn't know that if you roll a 20 or higher with all your modifiers or whatever, it was a critical hit. Like, you can get an unnatural 20 or 21 or 25 or whatever, and it counts as a critical hit, right? So that makes this better all of a sudden. And in fact, really points to what I feel the Death's Head is getting at. The Death's Head is kind of put out as sort of this, like, sniper platform. And that's true, or it is good as a sniper, but because it's good at a very specific thing, and that is taking one big shot, right? Going back and forth, thinking about the Death's Head, I think that the Death's Head is one of the best, if not the best, artillery mech, as long as you're playing the Death's Head game. And the real reason for that are its 2 traits. Neuralink and perfected targeting coming from other games and then starting to get into Lancer. I didn't realize what an absolute oddity perfected targeting is. I don't know that there are any other frame traits anywhere, any other frames that give you a +1 to something. Like, it's extremely rare and it's really weird. It's not +1 accuracy, it's +1. And so you're like, well, what's the big deal? Just a +1. Wouldn't like +1 accuracy be better? And the answer is no, because accuracy sort of like, you put accuracy in the parenthesis and that like sort of like shakes itself out. Each new point of accuracy that you add only helps you by a progressively smaller and smaller percentage, right? Whereas this +1 is just always there, right? And it doesn't factor in with that stuff. It doesn't cook out with all the other stuff. This is the Death's Head's game. The Death's Head, generally speaking, wants to take one shot per turn. It wants to shoot one thing and shoot it real good. And you can tell that by its license as well. Core Siphon. When you activate this protocol, you get +1 accuracy in your first attack roll this turn, but receive +1 difficulty on all other attack rolls until the end of the turn. Core Siphon in particular, specifically with Neuralink, and especially if you're rocking a super heavy, you're probably not even going to have any other weapons, right? Now, you don't have to play it that way. A Death's Head with a howitzer and an assault rifle, that thing's going to do plenty of damage, right? That's fine. And you can build something around that and then switch them out for like better versions or more specific versions to what you want. I'm not saying that you have to play the Death's Head that way, but that's what the Death's Head wants. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off of the Death's Head, because a lot of the time in Lancer, people get really hung up on the action economy. And to be clear, it's not that the Death's Head isn't good in the action economy, it's that the Death's Head cashes out differently in the action economy. The Death's Head says, give me one very accurate shot, and yes, I know that more actions is better, but I'm going to cash in all my actions to hit ones really hard. And I think a lot of people, like, they get it. They see it and they're like, cool. I don't like that. Let me get into a Pegasus and actually barrage and let me attack with all of my weapons, right? And that's fair. That's totally fair. So, you might ask, okay, now you've read the book, you've ran some sessions of Lancer, you're making videos, you're talking to the community, where does the Death's Head rank now? And to me, it still ranks very close to the top. It's very good because I feel like I understand it a lot better. I understand what it wants to do. And that's important. Like, all of these mechs are built in such a way that there is a sort of gameplay system that they want you to engage with. And if you fight that system, you're probably not going to have a lot of fun. If you do things that are sort of lateral to the system, you might have fun. That can be a lot of fun. But if you kind of do what the mech wants you to do, and then within that area, within that, like, what does the Death's Head want to do, little square? Like, here's a square of things the Death's Head wants to do. How many things are in here? There's actually lots of things in there, right? Lots of systems, lots of weapons, lots of actions that you can take during a turn, especially once you open that up to, like, your squad, right? Your group, like, what are they doing? There's a lot more things that you can do, right? If you have, a very high damaging melee front line, that leaves you to, like, pick them off afterwards, right? They'll, like, damage stuff up front, and then you get to, like, place the kill shots. If you have a support heavy group, then, you get to wear the cool guy hat and actually abuse all of the lock-ons and stuff that they laid out for you and get your high accuracy, high damage stuff. And then you're also going to run into parties where a Death's Head is just very bad. It's just not going to work. And obviously, mobile, damagey mechs. Your Blackbeards, your Metal Marks, they're going to do fine in most sit reps, right? Mechs that are specifically artillery or that are trying to do artillery are going to fluctuate how effective they are depending on the sit rep, right? The Death's Head's core bonus wants you to immobilize it. The talent for rifles, and there's lots of good rifles, wants you to get immobilized. So if you're trying to move the payload, either you have to not use your talent, or the rest of the group has to get used to the fact that you're not going to help move the thing. You're just going to, like, perch up on a building and try to kill everything that gets near it. And that can be a lot of fun. I think now, with armament redundancy being a system that is available, the Death's Head is, like, even in a better position. Like, I don't know. I'm not really here to argue that, like, the Death's Head is, like, the best artillery mech. I actually think that's the Pegasus. But if you figure out the square where the Death's Head lives, and you find fun things inside there and, like, stick them to your Death's Head, you're going to have a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what I got. Please like and subscribe. Channel is growing. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.